Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is the Shield Throw Paladin. Now people have been asking for an update to my super tanky shield throw build that I did in the past. We haven't played shield throw in a while. I went and revisited it, but this time I wanted to do way more damage with it, and I also wanted to play it without using smite, which is something that almost everyone does. Proccing that smite on throwing attack hits is just very powerful. So instead we built this one to still have up to 99% or 100% block chance depending on how good you get rules. If you get some exalted gear, you can get over 100% chance to block. So we'll be blocking everything, and then we're also going to use shield throw to be a 100% hit damage build. We're going to build into a high crit chance with it, a lot of critical strike multiplier, we're going to have quick throwing speed, and then we're also going to take advantage of the nodes that give shield throw more damage per 1% block chance you have. Now these nodes normally will make it to where you don't have block anymore while shield throw is released. However, what I have found is that when you don't have a cooldown on shield throw, it tends to bypass that. So you'll still be able to block, you'll still be using Holy Aura to get all the ward on hit, and you're going to have a very high block chance. What does that mean? Well, you'll have up to your 80% armor, you'll have your capped resistances, you'll have your capped endurance, you'll have your critical strike avoidance, and then you'll have up to 100% block chance. So on every hit you're going to gain up to 21 ward, you're going to gain a whole bunch of health, and you're just going to be this super tanky beast that can throw a shield really fast. And our hit damage is actually going to be really good as well. Why? Because we're converting shield throw to fire, and then you can get a lot of fire throwing attack damage on both the amulet, on your rings inside the tree, and then we're going to have the multiplicative damage inside the skill tree. You can get 75% more damage, fire damage, and since we're built into all fire with it, that's going to benefit its damage. And then also we have a lot of crit chance for it, so you're going to have about 70 to 80% crit chance with it. And then also you have that crit multiplier that you can put on your weapon, on your items. And then again, you also get those nodes that give it a more damage modifier per 1% block chance. So you can get 150% of your block chance as more damage. So if you have 100% block, that's 150% more damage for shield throw. So it does lots of damage, it ricochets. Now this is going to be an S tier build, it's going to push high corruption, it does well in the arena, you're going to be very tanky, but it's not going to be similar to how much damage output in AoE that you can get with like Nova Boy. But it's still high up there. You can still do a lot of damage with it, still clear maps really fast. You can go high in the arena, 400, 500 waves, no problem. It does take a bit of gearing, but what S tier build doesn't? Alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how this build works. For skills, I'm running Ring of Shields, Sigils of Hope, Lunge, Holy Aura, and Shield Throw. Now Ring of Shields is one that you can change in and out. If you want to use Volatile Reversal, you can switch it there. If you'd also like to run Smite for that increased attack speed, which is throwing speed, you can also put that here. I went with Ring of Shields because it increases our block chance and can give flat fire damage. And it can help with single targets, since you'll be able to bounce your shield off of them with Aegis inside of shield throw for those extra ricochets. Now, while you don't get 100% uptime of the buffs that you can get out of it, the added flat fire damage and the block chance, it is helpful to be able to get a little bit more damage against the single targets. So for this setup, we've got 2 points in reinforcement, 3 points in banding, 1 point in molten shields. 5 points in Touched by Fire means that for 4 seconds after you've cast it, you get that 15 flat fire damage. That's with both spells and attacks, which includes shield throw. 2 points in Tempered Steel and 5 points in Defensive Shields gives you 15% increased block chance for 4 seconds after casting it, which will take us to 99% block chance in this build, as long as you have 4 sigils active as well. Then for Sigils of Hope, this is set up to give us more increased armor, gives us lots of fire damage, and then of course some block chance as well. Now they do last long enough to where we have the 1 point to have a 6% chance to proc it on kill, and when that happens they last long enough that you should be able to, while running echoes or in the arena, not have to manually cast them. Now against single target, when you're obviously not getting kills, you will have to manually cast it. We do have 1 mana regen affix on our gear, so we do have just enough mana regen to be able to use Lunge, Holy Aura, and Ring of Shields and do Sigils of Hope every now and then. You won't be able to spam it, but you'll be able to get yourself 2 to 3 of them at all times while in a single target fight, or you can turn off Ring of Shields and then you can spam all 4 of them and keep 100% uptime of all of them without needing to depend upon the kills. For this setup, we've got 4 points in Empowered Sigil, so we have increased damage per active sigil. 1 point in Last Wish gives you that 6% chance to proc it on kill. 3 points in Decree of Flame gives us 3 more fire damage per active sigil. They naturally come with 4, so this is 7. You'll have up to 4 sigils, which means you can get 28 flat fire damage added to your throwing attacks, and spells. So Shield Throw will do more damage with this, especially since Shield Throw is a fire skill since we've converted it. 3 points in Iron Sigils gives us more armor per active sigil. We'll have 4 of them, so this will give us 480 flat armor added. 4 points in Enduring Hope increases the duration. 1 point in Tetragram gives us that 4th maximum sigil. 1 point in Meditation. We don't really care about the health regen, but this unlocks the Sign of the Guardian, which gives us that block chance. So with 4 of them, we'll get 12% more block chance. You add that to the 15% you can get with Ring of Shields, and you're going to end up with 99% total. Now, if you have an Exalted Shield that came with a Tier 6 or Tier 7 block chance, or on the rings or gloves you have a Tier 6, Tier 7 block chance, you can easily break 100% block chance with this build. For Lunge, we got Lunge set up the normal way, and I say the normal way because this is how it's spec'd in almost any and every Lunge build that I've done. We've got 3 points in Tactician, 4 points in Forge On for that 100% armor increase and stun avoidance when you've recently lunged, 1 point in Unstoppable so you're invincible while lunging, 1 point in Initiative, 5 points in Avenger's Charge so you get that 240% increased crit chance while you have recently lunged or while you have Initiative active. 4 points in Into the Fray for increased hit area, 1 point in Blood Rush, and 1 point in Double Strike, so that you can have additional charges. Now, if you don't like the additional charges, you can get rid of this, and that will also get rid of the mana cost, which will help with being able to spam more sigils, as Lunge will basically be free at that point. For Holy Aura, we have this set up so that you gain ward and health whenever you block. You'll have such a high block chance that you're always going to be getting that health and ward, which makes you very, very tanky. And then, of course, we built into the throwing side of it as well. We've got 2 points in Call to Arms, 4 points in Strength from Afar. This gives you 48% increased throwing attack damage as well as stun chance. And 2 points in Expedite gives you more throwing attack speed as well as haste. 5 points in Shelter from the Storm gives you more elemental resistance and endurance. This will be doubled when you actually have it active, although doubling it doesn't really do much for the build, as we'll be capped on both elemental and endurance with it just being a passive. We've got 4 points in Mighty Shield so that every time we block we gain 8 health, and 3 points in Against the Odds so that every time we block we also gain 21 ward. Now that's going to allow you to be very, very tanky, because this is basically meaning every time you take a hit, not only would you be healed if you're missing life, but you're given a shield for the next hit that you take. So it's a huge benefit to the build, and you're going to be very, very tanky. Especially with all the damage reductions we have, just getting 21 ward is even more effective, since with all the damage reduction, 21 protects you against more. For Shield Throw, we have 22 points in this. You don't need to have the +2, but it helps you do more damage. With it, we're going to convert it to fire, so we got 2 points in Forge Born, 1 point in Molten Shield. This turns all of its base damage into fire damage instead of physical. If you have added throwing physical damage, that will still be physical damage. You don't get that. So like on our rings, we're not going to put those in there because you don't really need the negative mana cost on both. So we only did 1 ring with it instead of 2. We'll still have a cheap mana cost. And again, that added physical damage won't convert to fire. It's just the base. And then of course on the rings and the amulet, you can also add fire damage. Your Ring of Shields will give you fire damage. Your sigils give you fire damage. So you're still going to have plenty of damage even though we're taking the fire tag. And then we also have 3 points in Molten Toss for that 75% more fire damage with Shield Throw. So that's a huge multiplier for it, and that's why we're building into the fire side of it. We got 4 points in Polished Steel, 1 point in Focused Campaign, and 1 point in Shield Barrage. What this does is it takes off the cooldown, reduces the mana cost. Your projectiles are smaller, you do a little less damage, but now you can just spam it and cast it, and it costs 0 mana for us, so it's going to be super effective to just keep spamming and not have to worry about ever being stuck. Even if you go negative mana for casting sigils, you can still use Shield Throw. We then have 2 points in Heavy Shield. This gives added physical damage that's not converted by converting it to fire. 1 point in Armoring Aegis gives us armor every time it ricochets. 1 point in ricochet gives us an additional ricochet. 1 point in Aegis allows us to bounce it off of allies like our shields so that we can get more hits with it. We have 3 points in Sharpened Rim to increase the base crit chance, so instead of 5, it'll now be 8% chance. This will help us get to about that 70 or 80% crit chance, so that you'll get lots of hard-hitting crits. And then 1 point in Spiked Plates gives 50% of your block chance as added damage, so you get 50% more multiplier based on your block chance. If you have 100% block chance, you get 50% of that, which would be 50% more damage with shield throw. And then with 1 point in Rygar's Fury, this gives you another 100%, and it stacks with the 50% you have here, so you get 150% of your block chance as a more multiplier hit damage for shield throw. So let's just say we have 100%, we have 99% block chance in this build with everything, active. But let's say you had 100%, that means you would do 150% more damage with shield throw while all those were active and while you were doing hits with it. Now, while you have released your shield, which means when you've thrown it and it hasn't came back to you, you're not supposed to be able to block. However, these nodes seem to be bugged, or this one seems to be bugged, because we're still blocking every time. You're still going to have a block even when your shield is out there. So there's no reason not to take it. You do more damage and you can still block. If that gets fixed in the future, it could change the build a little bit. Obviously, you probably wouldn't want to take that, especially in the higher corruption, as you would take more damage. But here, we're still going to build towards getting to that 100% block and getting all that extra damage. For passives, we've got 8 points in Juggernaut, 8 points in Fearless, 4 points in Gladiator, 5 points in Armor Clad, and then 5 points in Blade Master. Because we are wearing a sword, we will get that 30% bonus to attack speed, which counts for throwing speed. For Forge Guard, we've got 9 points in here, 6 points for Battle Hardened, and 3 points for Steel Aegis. You only need 5 points in here to get the Ring of Shields. For Void Knight, we got 5 points here, all 5 in Abyssal Endurance. Gives Void Resistance, Physical Resistance, and Flat Health. This will also unlock Volatile Reversal if that's the skill that you want to go with to use. And then for Paladin, we've got 69 points, with 8 points in Conviction, 8 points in Defiance, 5 points in Honor, 4 points in Holy Symbol, 8 points in Faith Armor, 1 point in Staunch Defender, 1 point in Shield Wall, 10 points in Holy Precision, which gives that huge amount of throwing critical strike chance, 12 points in Reverence of Duality, and 12 points in Light of Rhea. For idols, items, and blessings, so this is a no unique build. You don't need any uniques to run it. For idols, the 1x3s you can throw in here can give you throwing critical strike multiplier, which is huge for the build, because with 4 of them you can get almost 100% critical strike multiplier. Since we are building into high critical strike chance, that's going to be a lot of extra damage. And then you can get chance to shred armor on fire hit, and since shield throw is a fire skill now, you shred lots and lots of armor. You can get up to 200% or 2 stacks of armor shred per hit, and with ricochets and all that, those are all going to be hits with 4 of these if you get good rules. And the other thing this allows for, since we're running 4 1x3s instead of any 1x4s, is you can also run 1x2s. On the prefix, you can get critical strike chance, you can also get increased health, and then on the suffix, you can get fire damage, and the other things you can get is dodge or resistance that you need, or whatever else it is that you need to fit into that area that would benefit your build. But for the most part, you can do lots more health, you can do fire damage, you can get that critical strike chance, and all of those work. You can also fit in a 2x2. If you're wanting to run smite, you can throw in one 2x2 idol that would have a chance to proc smite on hit, so you don't actually have to cast it. It could be automatically proc from you throwing shield throw. Of course, just one of those is going to have a maximum of a 9% chance, but it is a good way to get some extra throwing attack speed without having to manually cast smite, if that is the route that you go. For crafted items, I went with the one-handed katana sword because you can't do any throwing damage. There's no weapons with throwing damage, but what you can get is the implicit that gives up to 75% critical strike multiplier, and that does count for throwing hits. So we went with the katana because it could give you that 75% critical strike multiplier, which is huge. Then on it, we put critical strike multiplier. You have fire damage increase. You could put critical strike chance if you wanted on it. And then we have chance to chill and chance to slow on hit. Those are also, you can do whatever ailments you want for the suffixes. I'm just going to hover over the rest of these, but basically you want your plus to shield throw, you have your increased increased critical strike chance. You have your added fire damage to your amulet and to your rings. Now I did have an amulet that fell that had +7 on it. It didn't have the fire penetration on it. This is just a more optimal build setup if you happen to have that. If you have tier 6 or tier 7 throwing fire damage added to any of your rings or to your amulet, it's going to really boost your damage up, so make sure to be on the lookout for that and throw those on if you have them. For the shield, we went with the iron glass because it has that huge block chance percentage on it. You throw block chance, throwing damage, increased armor, health, and I'm just going to hover over the rest of this build planner. Will be in the written guide as well as in the description below. And then for blessings, you can kind of do whatever you want. There's nothing that's going to make or break the build, but the ones that I have for the main ones are going to be increased void resist. I also have increased stun chance. We also went with chance to slow here, but we also have that on the weapon, so it's not necessary. And then increased armor and increased fire damage. None of these are going to make or break the build, so you can get whatever blessings you want or whichever ones. There is increased or chance to shred fire resistance if you want. I believe it's on the Spirits of Fire timeline. It might be a different one, but if you get that, that'll also boost your damage by quite a bit. So, you know, mix and match. Whichever ones you get, it's going to be RNG, but you're not going to have to chase down blessings to make the build work. Alright, for the character sheet, as you can see, we're sitting just over 2,600 health. Those health idols really help. If you have the hybrid health idols that have both flat and increased on them, you can easily hit 3,000 life on this build, which is incredible. And then for resistances, you can see they're all capped except for poison. Didn't even focus on poison. You really just don't need it. And then we also have a huge amount of armor. We have our 72% block chance. This will go higher if you have any exalted rings or a shield that have higher block chance on them. And then 44% more damage reduction for a blocked hit. Now your armor is going to spike up to 70 or 80% depending on how many ricochets you have. Also, if you've recently lunged, you know, you get that 100% boost. That's going to put you at that 80% damage reduction for physical type. And then of course you get, it's 70 or 80% of that is effective now. 70% of that's effective now against other damage types. So if you have 80% there, you're going to still get 55-60% of your other damage types, you know, reducted. So it's a huge damage reduction build. You're going to still be very, very tanky, and with Ring of Shields and Sigils up, you'll be able to get 99% block chance, even higher if you have any exalted block chance anywhere, which means another 44% damage reduction on all hits. On top of that, as well as on those blocks, you get 8 health healed and the 21 word gained, so even more damage reduction. It's just a massive amount. And then for our endurance, you can see 59% endurance. We have a 500 endurance threshold, and then our 100% critical strike avoidance as well. So for how to play this build in skill rotation, I like to put Holy Aura, Lunge, and Ring of Shields on autocast. Ring of Shields, I'll take off autocast. Sometimes it can be annoying if you throw your shield. Sometimes, you know, you're wasting ricochets in high density areas because instead of it bouncing around the mobs, it's bouncing back towards your shields. Or sometimes when you throw a shield throw, it'll just hit your shields and bounce around instead of going the distance and hitting away. So sometimes I like to just save it, and I'll just manually cast it when I need it at a single target, such as a high health rare or a boss. But Holy Aura and Lunge I will put on autocast. For Sigils of Hope, again, you'll get this on kill, but you'll manually do it for single target. Training Dummy obviously isn't going to give me kills, so I'm going to manually cast it here. But when you get all 4 Sigils up, and then you're attacking with Shield Throw, you're doing incredible. I mean, your DPS here is 72,000. You throw up a Ring of Shields, and if you throw a Ring of Shields up and a Holy Aura at the same time, you'll have even more. Look at that. We broke 100,000 DPS with Shield Throw. So, I mean, you're doing some impressive damage with Shield Throw. And so you get your Sigils up, you have your Ring of Shields going, your Holy Aura going, you make sure to get that Lunge in, and then you just throw your shields, your crits, just massive crits. We're doing, you know, 40-50k crits against the Training Dummy. Against empowered content, you're going to be doing 2 to 5k crits against, you know, bosses. Really depends on what your modifiers are. If you give them glancing below, critical strike avoidance, less damage taken at high health, obviously the hits will be a little bit lower, but it's still a very, very hard hitting skill, and you're just so tanky. You can see that when we lunge, when we get that up, our armor's jumping up into that 70% range. And then again, when we get hit, it goes up even higher because we get that percentage increase from that as well. If we get the sigils here going, that's going to put us above that 70% marker. So it's just a huge damage reduction build. Now, after putting this build together, I was talking to Lizard, and he did a build very, very similar to this, and it pushed over 400 waves in the arena. It is from a few months ago. It is from a previous patch, but it works similarly. He is using Volatile Reversal and I believe Shield Bash in his. It's going to be linked below, so you'll have that as a reference as well if you want to change it up a bit, just to see how they both run. But again, it's going to take you super high corruption. It's going to just feel super tanky ever since you started. It's going to go high in the arena, and it's just a great tanky build. Now, it's not the highest DPS in the game, but it is really good damage, and because it has the ricochets, it does do AoE, which is also really nice. But that's going to be it for this build guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, stay safe, travelers, and enjoy some gameplay.